The sun burned high above, turning the desert into fire. Dry wind pushed across the cracked ground, carrying dust and bones. Nothing lived here for long. No water. No shade, only pain in the middle of this dead place. She lay still. Her purple skin was dry and bruised. Her long hair spread across the dirt like golden threads. Her body didn't move. Her lips were broken and her eyes closed. She looked like a body left to rot, but she wasn't dead. Not yet. The vultures circled above, big alien birds with sharp beaks and cold eyes. They could smell weakness. They could smell death coming. She was alone. Her family had left her behind 2 days ago. They said she had failed them. They said she was no longer useful. So they walked away and never looked back. Now she waited for the end. The heat was too much. Her breath was weak. She could no longer cry, but then a shadow fell over her face. Not a vulture, not the sun going down, but something else. Someone. A man. He knelt beside her, his body strong, arms covered in strange straps and metal. His face full of dust, but his eyes were clear blue and bright. He touched her shoulder gently. She didn't move. He checked her pulse. Felt the weak beat of life still inside her. Still alive, he whispered, more to himself than her. He looked around, saw the birds coming closer. 5 of them, maybe 6. Their claws sharp. Their beaks ready. He stood up and waved his arms. Back off. He shouted. The birds flapped but didn't leave. They knew she couldn't fight. They didn't fear humans either. He pulled a small torch from his belt and lit it. The fire scared them. They flew a little further back, but they didn't leave. They were patient. The man turned back to her. "Can you hear me?" he asked. No answer, just a soft breath. He picked her up. She was light to light. Her body had not eaten in days. Her arms hung loose. Her head fell on his shoulder. He looked at the horizon. There was nothing but sand and rock. But he had seen a cave not far from here when he came searching for scrap. He had come looking for old tech, not a dying woman. Still, he couldn't leave her. He walked step after step, her breathing weak against his chest. The sun didn't stop, neither did he. After an hour, the small cave appeared between 2 sharp rocks. It wasn't much, but it had shade. It had a chance. He placed her down gently inside, pulled a blanket from his pack and wrapped her, then gave her a few drops of water. Slowly, she swallowed. "Barely, that's it," he said. "You're not dying today." Outside, the birds waited, watching. They didn't understand why he cared. He wasn't from her world. He didn't know her kind. He could have walked away like her own people did. But he didn't. He stayed. He sat beside her, lit a small fire, watched over her as she slept with shallow breaths. She didn't know it yet, but her life had changed. The desert had been her end, but now, maybe it could be a beginning. The cave was small, but it was safe for now. The wind outside howled like ghosts, carrying sand that stung like fire. But inside, the human kept the fire low and steady. He sat cross-legged beside the alien woman. He watched her breathe, slow and weak, like a candle close to going out. Her skin, once a deep violet, looked pale now. Her face was sharp, eyes closed, body wrapped in a blanket he had given her. He didn't even know her name, didn't know her species either. He just knew she was alone and someone had to care. He looked through his bag, only 2 water packs left. A few ration bars, some tools, and 1 old photo of his dog back on Earth. "Great," he whispered to himself. "I came here to find scrap metal. Now I'm a nurse." Still, he didn't leave. The desert was unforgiving, but leaving her out there would have haunted him forever. Hours passed. The sun outside dipped low, turning the sky orange-red. The cave grew cooler. The shadows longer. She hadn't woken yet. But she moved slightly now and then, just enough to show she was fighting to live. Then, just as the stars began to shine through the cave entrance, she whispered, a sound so soft he almost missed it. Why? He leaned in closer. What did you say? Haha, he asked gently. Her lips barely moved. Why? Didn't you leave me? The question struck him hard. He didn't expect her to speak. And definitely not that. He paused, then answered slowly, because you're still alive. He said, and where I come from, we don't leave people to die. She blinked weakly, eyes glowing softly in the dark, golden like melted fire. You are human, she said, the word strange on her tongue. He nodded. Yeah. Name's Carter, he said. Ex-engineer, current desert idiot. A ghost of a smile touched her cracked lips. I am Syrah, she said at last. Carter sat back and looked at her. Syrah, he repeated. That's a good name. She tried to sit up, failed, and groaned in pain. He gently supported her back. Easy. Don't push yourself, he said, offering more water. She drank, slower this time, and sighed. Her voice was still low, but clearer. You don't know who I am. Why help me? He shrugged. Don't need to know. You were breathing. That was enough. Her eyes welled up tears, forming slowly but not falling. No one ever stayed, she whispered. Then maybe they were all fools, Carter said firmly. Because anyone who walks away from a life, any life, is no better than those birds circling outside. Syrah looked away, but a small warmth stirred in her chest, something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed from outside. A screech. Long and angry, Carter stood up quickly, grabbing his small fire torch. They're back, he muttered. He moved to the cave entrance and saw them, 3 vultures, larger than before. Pacing just outside the shadows, they had learned that fire kept them away, but hunger made them bold. Syrah sat up halfway, alarmed. They will come again, she said. And they are not just animals. They are bred to hunt the dying. Figures, Carter said, lighting the torch and stepping forward. Let's show them I'm not dying. He waved the flame, shouted through a rock. They backed off, but not far. Carter knew this would be a long night. Back inside, Syrah asked quietly, You will fight them. For me. Carter smiled. I've fought worse. And you're not dying tonight, Syrah? The vultures screeched again, circling the cave, but inside, the fire burned bright, and beside it, a man refused to give up. Not on her, not now, not ever. Syrah's eyes opened with the morning light. But it wasn't the same light she remembered from before. It wasn't the cruel sun burning her skin. This light was soft, golden, and warm. She blinked slowly. The first thing she saw was a firelo. Controlled, safe. The second thing she saw was him, the human, Carter. He sat beside her, legs crossed, fixing something in his lap. It looked like a small machine, broken and dusty. His eyes were focused, his hands steady. But when he noticed her watching, he smiled. Hey, he said. You're awake? Syrah didn't answer right away. She didn't know what to say. No one had ever smiled at her like that. Not in her family, not in her clan, not even as a child. She studied his face, rough jaw, sunburnt cheeks, tired eyes. But there was no fear in him, no hate, only calm. Where am I? She asked, her voice still weak. Somewhere safe, Carter replied. At least for now. He gave her a small metal cup with water. She took it with shaking hands. It tasted like life. I thought I was dead. She whispered, You almost were, he said, but I don't let people die if I can stop it. She looked down at the blanket covering her body. She remembered lying in the sand, alone, waiting for the vultures, waiting to stop breathing. Why? She asked again, barely louder than the fire. Carter tilted his head. Why what? Why didn't you leave me?" He sighed and leaned back against the cave wall. "Where I come from, we don't leave the wounded behind," he said, "even if they're strangers. Especially if they're strangers." He said with a half smile, "Friends should help. Yes. But real goodness is helping someone even when you get nothing back." Sierra lowered her gaze. That was not how her world worked in her clan. The weak were left behind, the sick were considered cursed, and she had been born with a broken leg as a child, healed wrong, her stride was slow, her balance weak. She could never run as fast as the others, so they called her useless. Carter didn't know any of this, but he didn't seem to care about her weakness. He saw her as someone worth saving. "Are you always like this?" she asked softly. "Like what kind?" he chuckled. "Not always," he said, "but I try to be." A pause. Then he added, "I was a soldier once. I've seen too much death, too many people left behind. That's not the kind of world I want to build." Sierra looked at him with quiet awe. He was strange. This human, so different from her kind. Yet, something about him felt right. Safe. She touched her own hand. It was still sore. Skin dry and cracked, but the pain wasn't as sharp anymore. It was fading, healing. "I thought humans were violent." She said, "That you came from a world full of war." Carter's smile faded a bit. "Some of us are," he said, "but some of us, we just want peace." He glanced at her. "And what about your people? Were they always so quick to throw away one of their own?" Sierra's jaw tightened. "They are proud," she said slowly. "Too proud. If you are not strong, you are nothing. I failed a test, so they left me." Carter shook his head. "That's not pride, Sierra. That's fear dressed in tradition." She blinked at him again. His words cut deeper than she expected. She had always blamed herself, always believed she wasn't enough. But now someone had said the truth out loud, and he didn't even know her. Yet he stayed. Yet he fought the vultures. Yet he gave her water, food, warmth, words. Her eyes filled with tears, but they didn't fall. She was too used to holding them. Still, Carter noticed, he didn't say anything. He simply reached out, slowly, and placed a hand over hers. "I'm not going anywhere," he said, voice steady. "You're safe now, Sierra," and for the first time in her life, she believed it. The day passed quietly. Sierra rested, her body slowly healing. Carter kept the fire going, kept the cave warm. He had even set up a small signal flare outside the cave in case any friendly scouts flew by, though he knew it was unlikely. By evening, Sierra could sit up fully. Her color was returning, and so was her voice. Carter had given her another ration bear. It tasted strange to her alien tongue, but she ate it anyway. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like prey. She felt like a person again. "I don't remember ever feeling this safe," she said quietly, looking at the cave walls glowing orange from the firelight. Carter smiled as he checked the small power cell in his hand. "That's sad," he said, "but that can change." Just then, the air shifted. A cold breeze crept through the cave mouth, and with it came a smell, sharp, musky, foul. Carter froze. Sierra noticed too, her eyes suddenly alert. "That smell." She whispered, "I know it." Outside, a sound echoed. Not wind, not thunder, but wings. Big ones. Flapping slowly, and footsteps, clawed feet, dragging across stone. Carter rose, torch in one hand, his tool knife in the other. He moved to the entrance and peered outside. The last bit of sunlight was gone. The desert lay in darkness, but something moved just beyond the rocks. A screech broke the silence, high, sharp, and full of hate. Sierra flinched. "They're not just vultures tonight," she said, voice tight. "They've brought the black one." Carter turned, confused. "The black what?" She swallowed hard. Every desert pack has one larger, older, more intelligent. The leader, the one that waits until prey feels safe. Then it strikes. Carter looked out again. Something tall now stood among the smaller shapes, its wings wide and still, glowing faintly under moonlight. Its eyes burned red, watching, thinking. Carter narrowed his eyes. They've evolved. He said, "This isn't just scavenging. It's planned." He moved quickly. Setting small fire traps around the cave entrance, using fuel and wires from his salvaged parts, Sira tried to rise. "I can help," she said, though her legs were still weak. "No," Carter said gently, "stay near the fire. If anything gets past me, light the second torch." She nodded. Fear in her chest, but also trust. Then came the attack. The smaller vultures rushed forward first, their sharp talons scraping the ground. Carter lit one trap boom. Flames exploded. Outward, pushing them back, he swung his torch like a blade. One bird lunged, he struck it mid-air. It screamed and fled with its feathers on fire. But the black one didn't move. It just watched. Waiting, Sira watched from the shadows. Her hands shaking, she remembered stories from her childhood of travelers who never returned. Of bones picked clean in the night, she had never believed them. Until now, outside, Carter fought off another two. He was fast, but they were faster. One claw ripped across his arm, tearing the fabric. He grunted, but didn't fall. He threw dirt at it, blinding it. Then drove his tool knife into its wing. It shrieked and collapsed. Then the black one moved. It spread its wings and stepped forward. No sound, no rush, just calm death walking. Carter turned to face it. It stared directly into him. No fear, no confusion. It screeched, louder than thunder, and charged. Carter braced for the impact. But then flash. A second torch burst into light from behind him. Sira had lit it, flames rising high, and for a moment the black one hesitated. Its eyes narrowed, its steps slowed, it growled, and turned, wings flapping wide. Then it flew into the dark sky, disappearing beyond the dunes. Silence fell again. Carter breathed hard, sweat on his brow, blood on his arm. He looked at Sarah, standing with the torch in hand, shaking but alive. "You lit it," he said. Surprised and smiling, she nodded. "I wasn't going to watch you die for me." He stepped inside, dropping the tool knife. "You saved me right back," he said. She sat again, still trembling. "That thing. It'll come again, won't it?" Carter nodded. "Probably. But next time, we'll be ready." And for the first time, it wasn't just Carter protecting her now. They were protecting each other, together, in a desert that wanted them dead. They refused to give up. The fire crackled quietly. The desert outside had gone silent again. No more screeches, no more flapping wings, only stars above and shadows beyond. Inside the cave, Carter sat on the ground. Cleaning the scratch on his arm, the bleeding had stopped. But the mark would remain. A reminder, Sarah sat nearby, her knees pulled to her chest. Wrapped in the old blanket, the light of the fire danced across her face, showing soft scars hidden beneath her skin. Old ones, wounds that hadn't come from vultures or the desert. "Thank you," she said at last, voice soft. "For what?" Carter asked. "For not running when that creature came." He shrugged. "I told you I don't run unless I'm out of coffee." Sira smiled faintly. It was small, but it was real. Then silence again. Not uncomfortable, just waiting. Sira stared at the flames. Her golden eyes looked lost in memory. "Do you want to know why they left me?" she asked suddenly. Carter didn't push, but he nodded. "If you want to tell me." She took a breath, then began. "I was born into the clan of a shell," she said. "Honor, strength, power, that's all they cared about. From birth, we were tested. Babies were judged by how loud they cried, how strong they gripped their mother's finger. Carter stayed quiet, listening closely. "I was weak," she said. "A birth defect in my left leg. It healed wrong. I walked slower than the others. I was always the last, always the one holding the group back." She paused, swallowing the tightness in her throat. "I trained harder than anyone. I tried to fight, to climb, to hunt. But it was never enough." She held up her hand, showing a thin scar across her palm. "When I was 16, I passed the blood trial barely. They said I cheated. They laughed at me, called me broken." Carter's jaw clenched slightly. He had seen cruelty before, but this was different. This was a whole culture built on shame. Then came the trial of sand. She continued. "They take the weakest and leave them in the desert for 3 days. If you return, you are accepted. If not," her voice cracked, "they knew I couldn't survive. That was the point." She looked at Carter now, eyes shimmering. "They never wanted me to come back." Carter moved closer, slowly. He didn't say anything for a moment. Then he spoke. "Where I come from, we have people like that too. The kind who judge you before they even see you. Who leave others behind just to feel stronger themselves." He reached out and touched her wrist gently. "But where I come from, people like you. They're heroes." She stared at him, heart pounding. No one had ever said those words to her, not even close. "You don't know me," she whispered. "I know you're still here." He replied, "I know you didn't give up." That means more than they'll ever understand. Her throat tightened again, but this time, not from pain, from something deeper, something fragile. "Hope. I hated my name," she admitted. "Sira. It meant the quiet one in our tongue. A name they mocked me with every time I failed." Carter smiled. "I think it's a beautiful name," he said, "and it suits you not because you're weak, but because you've survived so much in silence." Sira looked away quickly, tears in her eyes now. Not because she was sad, but because someone had finally truly seen her. Not as a burden, not as prey, but as a person. She reached out and touched his hand this time, fingers light but firm. "Thank you," she said again. This time not just for saving her, but for listening, for believing. Carter nodded. "Sleep, Sira," he said. "We'll leave this place tomorrow. I know a human outpost just 2 days east. Once you're stronger, we'll head there." She nodded slowly for the first time. The thought of tomorrow didn't feel heavy. It felt possible. It felt real. That night, as the fire burned low and the cave grew quiet, Sira slept with peace in her heart, not because the danger was gone, but because, for the first time in her life, someone had chosen to stay. Morning came with silence. No birds. No wind, just the desert watching. Carter stood outside the cave, watching the horizon. The heat was already building, the sky clear and unforgiving. Behind him, Sira stepped forward slowly. She leaned on a long stick Carter had carved for her. Her steps were weak, but steady. She didn't want to be carried anymore. "I'm ready," she said quietly. Carter turned and gave her a warm smile. "Let's get out of this dead place." They packed what little they had, a blanket, 2 water packs, 1 flare, and Carter's small tracking device. Old, but still working. The human outpost was east across open desert, dry hills, and possibly unfriendly eyes. They walked side by side, step after step, across cracked ground and old bones. Sometimes Carter helped her over rough rocks. Sometimes Sira refused help and made it herself. She was tired, in pain, but she didn't stop. As the sun rose higher, Carter spoke. "You've changed," he said. "How?" she asked, wiping sweat from her brow. "You're not the same girl I found half buried in the sand." "I don't feel the same," she admitted. He looked at her. "You look stronger." She smiled slightly. "You gave me a reason." Around midday, they stopped under a large rock arch. There was little shade, but enough to cool their heads for a while. Carter checked the tracker, still 2 days away if we're lucky. he muttered. "Do we have enough water?" Sarah asked. Carter didn't answer right away. "Enough for one day." "If we share carefully," she nodded. "Not afraid, but serious. I'll drink less." "No." Carter said quickly, "You drink." "I'll manage." That night they camped in the open. No cave, no walls, just stars and each other. Sarah lay awake, staring at the sky. She had never noticed how beautiful it looked when you weren't trying to survive. She turned her head and looked at Carter sleeping beside her. He looked tired but peaceful, his jacket draped over her shoulders. He had given it without asking. Why does he care so much? She wondered, what kind of man risks himself for someone useless? And yet, deep down, she no longer believed she was useless. Not after the cave, not after the fire, not after the night she stood holding a torch instead of hiding in fear. The next day, the desert became harsher. The ground turned into sharp, glass-like stone. Their shoes wore down quickly. Carter's limp became noticeable. Ciro finally stopped him. "You're hurt," she said. "It's nothing," he lied. She bent down and ripped part of the blanket into a bandage, tied it around his ankle. "This time, let me help you," she said. They moved slower now, but stronger together as night fell again. Something changed. The tracker blinked red. Carter frowned. "What does that mean?" Ciro asked. "Movement," he said. "Someone's out there." Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. A flying drone zipped across the sky silver. Small, fast, it stopped above them, scanned the area, then sped off toward the east. Carter smiled. "That's one of ours," he said. "The outpost must be close," but Ciro didn't look happy. She was shaking, her eyes wide. "That wasn't just a drone," she whispered. "What do you mean?" "That type is also used by my clan for hunting." Carter's face turned serious. "You think they're looking for you?" She nodded. "If they saw the drone, they'll follow it. They'll guess I'm still alive." Carter clenched his fists. "They left you to die." "Why? Would they care now?" "'Cause I'm ashamed to them," she said. "And if I survive, proves them wrong." She looked up at him. "They won't let that happen." Carter stared at the stars for a long moment, then looked back at her. "Let them come," he said. "I'll be ready." "We both will." Ciro didn't speak. Instead, she stood beside him, holding the walking stick like a weapon. Her eyes calm, her fear replaced with fire. Tomorrow, they would reach the outpost, but tonight, they prepared to face the ones who wanted her gone because she was no longer alone. She was no longer the girl left for vultures. She was Sarah, and she had someone who believed in her, who would fight beside her, and she would fight too. The sun had just begun to rise. Soft light spread across the desert like a promise. Carter and Ciro stood on a rocky hilltop. And below them finally was the human outpost. White towers stood like teeth in the sand. Antennas blinked with red. Lights, tiny figures moved around near the gate. Human soldiers, scientists, machines, life. Ciro stared at it in silence. Her heart beat faster. It felt like reaching a dream she never believed in. She had never seen a human place before. And now this was her only chance at a future. But her steps slowed. Her hand tightened around the walking stick. Carter noticed. "You okay?" he asked. Ciro nodded slowly, but her voice was unsure. "Yes. Just, I don't know if I belong there." He looked at her gently. "Belonging doesn't come from them," he said. "It comes from you." She smiled weakly. Then they began. The final walk, the gates of the outpost opened as they approached. A group of human guards and medics rushed forward. "Identify yourselves," one of them said, scanning Carter. "Name, Carter Hayes. Civilian salvager." "This is Ciro. She needs medical help." The soldiers looked at her with wide eyes. An alien woman, wrapped in human cloth, half burnt, half healed. but standing tall beside a human man. The medic nodded. "Bring them in," for the first time. Sira crossed into safety, real safety. They gave her water, clean clothes, food, and medical treatment. The human doctors were gentle, their eyes kind. They asked questions, but not too many. And all the while, Carter stayed close. But peace doesn't last forever. Just 2 days later, it happened. A shuttle landed at the edge of the outpost. Not human alien, the clan of Vashel had arrived. The leader stepped out, a tall male with silver armor and dead eyes. Sira. He said coldly, "You bring shame to your blood." Sira froze. Her body remembered the pain. The words, the judgment, the fear returned like poison, but Carter stepped in front of her. "She's not going anywhere with you," he said firmly. The alien leader sneered. "She is not yours to protect. Human, she is not yours to control." Carter fired back. "She has a new life, now she chooses." Everyone turned to Sira. Even the human guards stayed silent. Waiting, Sira looked at the man who had once called her weak, who had left her for dead, who had never seen her as anything more than a burden. Her voice shook. "Why are you here?" "To end the shame," the leader said, "either by taking you or by ending you." Her hands balled into fists, but then she stepped forward. No longer hiding behind Carter. "You can't end me," she said, voice strong, "because I already survived what you did. I already died in that desert. The one standing here now, it's not yours to break." The alien's eyes widened. "You would stand against your blood." Sira raised her chin. "I would stand for my worth. Something you never saw." "But he did." She pointed to Carter. "And that's why I'm not going with you." The alien leader stepped closer, but human guards now raised their weapons. "You heard her," Carter said, voice cold now. "You're done here? A long pause. Then the alien turned, hissed, and returned to his ship. He left without a fight because the fight was already lost. Sira had chosen her path. After the ship vanished into the sky, Carter turned to her. "Are you okay?" Sira exhaled, a long breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "I am now," she said. That night, under the stars again, but this time in the safety of the outpost, Carter sat with Sira outside the medical bay. "Watching the sky, so?" he said. "What now?" Sira leaned back. "I don't know," she said, but for the first time. "I want to find out," he smiled. "You've come far." She looked at him. "I wouldn't have made it without you." He shook his head. "No. You just needed someone to believe in you. The rest you did on your own." A pause. Then she said it's something she'd been thinking for days. "You saved me, Carter. But not just from death. From who I thought I was." He looked at her, surprised by the weight in her words. "And what do you think now?" he asked. She smiled, "I think I'm not alone anymore." He nodded slowly. "No, you're not." And as the stars blinked above them, two souls who once had nothing, now had everything. Not by blood, not by duty, but by choice. They had become a new kind of family.